Chapter 2306. Yet another Rank 9 Immortal Goo. Chapter 2306. Yet another Rank 9 Immortal Goo inside the Sovereign Immortal Aperture. Mini Eastern Seed at Refinement Seas Sea Area. Sea breeze blew and sound of the waves could be heard constantly. An elderly Rank 5 hairy man was lying on a dinghy in an unconscious state. The dinghy moved along with the waves. If no changes occurred, this elderly hairy man was going to face death by drowning, but a towered ship was moving past here. And the people on the ship started shouting when they noticed the dinghy, and when the elderly hairy man woke up, he found he was already on the towered ship. Elder, are you also going to the Refinement Path Sacred Land to compete for the qualifications to enter Floating Refinement Hive? A hairy man Goo Master on the ship asked. The elder nodded. I live in many northern plains. I heard about Floating Refinement Hive and learned that it was forged by the orders of our Supreme Lord Great Love, Immortal Venerable. This Refinement Path Sacred Land might be my final hope to make a breakthrough. The hairy man Goo Masters on the ship exclaimed in surprise. Senior, it is really not easy for you to make such a long trip from many northern plains to here. You have our respect. The elderly hairy man shook his head, smiling bitterly. At first, it was not just me. There were 3 others as well, but on the dangerous journey, 2 died in succession, while the remaining 1 did not dare to continue and returned so. Only I arrived here. Sovereign Immortal Aperture was not safe, especially when abnormal situations occurred frequently. The stable living habitats were the areas where clans or large groups settled. Those areas were usually protected by immortal formations or Goo Immortals. Even Rank 5 Goo Masters would have to face huge risks if they were to make a long journey. The elderly hairy man also asked about the origins of the hairy man Goo Masters on the ship. That, like what he had expected, these hairy man Goo Masters came from many Eastern Seas, 3 hairy man continents that back then, Langya Blessed Lands Yellow Hair Continent, Black Hair Continent, and White Hair Continent were jointly called 3 hairy man continents. These hairy man Goo Masters had different cultivation levels. Rank 4 were the majority. There were few Rank 5s, and there were also Rank 3s, but they were rared. I am really envious of you. You all live so close to the Refinement Path Sacred Land. The elderly hairy man let out his inner side. What's the point of being close? We are forbidden from entering during normal times. How can we be allowed to enter the sacred land so casually? From what I know, many Goo Immortals' descendants can enter casually. We can't compare to them. If they have Goo Immortal seniors, they enter or leave this area through flying boats which are extremely fast. As long as this test is not difficult and I pass it, I will have the qualifications to enter and leave here freely. The hairy man Goo Masters discussed. Several days later, the elderly hairy man and the hairy man Goo Masters arrived above a floating refinement hive. The floating refinement hive was enormous and towering, making all the Goo Masters exclaim in shock that a voice entered every person's ears, instructing the correct path to enter the floating refinement hive. That the floating refinement hive structure was even more complex. There were countless rooms and corridors which made it easy to get lost with the guidance of that voice. The hairy man Goo Masters found their rooms one after the other. There were all kinds of living amenities in the rooms, but they were extremely simple, clearly showing the style of asceticism. That night, the newly arrived hairy man Goo Masters slept well. That the second day began. Goo materials were sent to the separate Goo refinement chamber in the room. The hairy man Goo Masters began their Goo refinement. That according to the explanation of that mysterious voice, this was the initial test. The Goo Masters were required to use their most proficient methods to process Goo materials or refine Goo worms. This test lasted for 3 days, in which time Goo Masters could display their attainment to their heart's content. That after the test, Goo Masters would be shifted to different rooms. Some moved to higher floors while some were dropped to lower floors. The floating refinement hive did not restrict interaction between Goo Masters. All kinds of small-scale meetings were held. During night, frequently, the Rank 5 elderly hairy man Goo Master saw many excellent Goo Master. Among them, hairy men were the most numerous, but there were also humans, and even some other variant human Goo Masters. He also heard many news. One day, according to everyone's speculation, they concluded that the Goo Masters on higher floors had better results because the higher the floor, the better the environment of the room, and the more exquisite the food served. Gu masters began to compete intensely based on this standard. A floating refinement hive never lacked tasks to process gu materials, refine gu worms, or create new gu. If the gu masters passed with good results, they could request guidance from the mysterious voice, learning exquisite gu refinement knowledge and techniques. That after living here for a couple of weeks, all the gu masters felt their strength rising rapidly. Like this, 14 days passed, and the gu masters faced the midterm test, a top-tier gu material needed to be processed by many gu masters together. The gu masters were distributed in their respective rooms. They watched the real-time video and processed the material together at separate locations. The video was lifelike and even had vivid temperature and smell like it truly existed. The real gu materials were in a refinement path gu formation in a secret area and were not placed before the gu masters. Such a method was unimaginable, shocking, and awing the gu masters. That the midterm test soon ended. 10 or so days passed again before it was time for the final test. This time, the test was to process immortal materials. Naturally, the main lead were gu immortals. Every floating refinement hive had at least one refinement path gu immortal. The gu masters were in charge of doing some supplementary tasks like processing a part of the immortal material, and so on. After passing the final test, the gu masters possessed the qualifications to enter and leave refinement C freely. But this qualification had a time limit of 50 years. Once this time limit was up, they had to retake the test. Most of Fang Yuan's floating refinement hives were packed with gu masters. The earlier stage did not have a high standard. Most of the gu masters could pass and obtain this qualification, but in the future, as the population increases explosively, there would be intense competition in every field. This was even more so for the qualification to enter refinement C. Every floating refinement hive could borrow the help of refinement C and greatly raise the success rate of gu refinement. At the same time, the wasted gu materials from refining in these refinement hives were melted by the floating refinement hives and sent to refinement C. Both components complemented each other. If there was no replenishment from the floating refinement hives, the current refinement C's water level would have already fallen by a lot. After all, Fang Yuan had been trying to advance an immortal gu for many days. The central area of refinement C was an absolute forbidden ground. Only the gu immortals permitted by Fang Yuan could enter. It was because 4 elements square regret blood refinement pool was there. Suddenly, a rumbling sound spread from 4 elements square regret blood refinement pool. A light pillar suddenly took shape and soared towards the sky. The light pillars slowly dissipated, and a rank 9 immortal gu revealed itself. This heaven path immortal gu looked like a crystal spider. It was clear and transparent with no flaws on the body. The spider's 8 legs were slim and long. Its body was also small and raised high by the 8 legs. It was heavenly web gu. And on the back of heavenly web gu, there was a cobweb-like white insignia. This was unique to rank 9 heavenly web gu. Rank 8 heavenly web gu did not have it. Success. Master gained yet another rank 9 immortal gu. Goodness, it is our utmost glory to be able to participate in this whole process. As long as this continues, Master will definitely trample on all the venerables one day. There were other gu immortals who took part in the advanced refinement process in 4 elements square regret blood refinement pool. Most of them were hairy men. They looked at the sky and sighed with emotions under the control of Fang Yuan's divine sense. Rank 9 heavenly web gu disappeared shortly after. Rank 9 heavenly web gu is also refined. Fang Yuan's mood was tranquil. He had refined several rank 9 immortal gu. He was becoming used to it and did not feel excitement, although the gu refinement failed twice. There was no setbacks after that, and it finished smoothly. Fang Yuan had pondered over this before finally choosing to advance heavenly web gu. He needed an immortal gu that could help him in frontal offense and defense. And among the 2 main aspects of offense and defense, Fang Yuan unhesitatingly chose the latter. Because of non-conflicting down marks of sovereign immortal body, its defense was extremely weak and was Fang Yuan's shortcoming. If other venerables used this point, Fang Yuan would have almost no place in a frontal combat, and the consequences would be extremely severe. When heavenly web gu was activated by itself, It could release a giant web to trap the target. Strictly speaking, it was not a defensive goo. It belonged to the offensive aspect, but it was the core of a defensive killer move. Heavenly Web Protection Veil. Heavenly Web Protection Veil's power increased massively and was even stronger than Reverse Flow Protection Seal now. Moreover, Heavenly Web Goo could be used in obscured Heavenly Secret, increasing the power of this move as well. Fang Yuan chose Heaven Path and gave up on Refinement Path because Refinement Path did not specialize in offense. Moreover, it was too widely spread that Heaven Path had extremely wide future prospects, and when developed well, was far better than Human Path. Even more amazing was that almost no one had the qualifications to cultivate Heaven Path. So, it was extremely wise of Fang Yuan to choose Heaven Path as his specialty. Using Heaven Path for offensive methods was naturally the best choice. Taking back the rank 9 Heavenly Web Goo, Fang Yuan inspected his storage because of 2 failures. A lot of Heaven Path immortal materials were expended, but as for the secluded domain of heaven and earth, refinement C, the sea level did fall, but not to the point of exceeding the limit. It could self-recover even if it was not looked after. Naturally, the constant resource deposit by floating refinement hives accelerated the recovery of refinement C. Just as Fang Yuan was planning on which rank 8 immortal goo to advance next, news arrived. 5 Heavenly Court immortals surrounded and attacked Lin Clan's first Supreme Elder Lin Jianxing, but were utterly defeated. Lin Jianxing revealed pseudo-venerable battle strength. He colluded with Fang Clan and helped to hide them, sending them intel secretly. Moreover, he was an otherworldly demon himself. There was much evidence pointing to the fact that Lin Jianxing colluded with and protected Fang Clan. It could be said to be ironclad. As an information path grade expert, Zhou Xiongxian not only had the ability to gather clues, he also had the ability to forge false evidence. As for Lin Jianxing's otherworldly demon identity, it was deduced by Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. Personally, the whole world was in an uproar. Western Desert was in even more chaos. It was not easy for a pseudo-venerable to emerge in this region, but before Western Desert's righteous path could feel any pride about this, they were dumbfounded. This pseudo-venerable Lin Jianxing was actually dabbling in the demonic path, and his involvement was quite deep. Chapter 2307. Star Constellation, I will need you to die. If not for Heavenly Court revealing it, the world would still be unaware of Lin Jianxing possessing pseudo-venerable battle strength. He hid it so well that he definitely had other motives. And looking at the reaction of most of the Lin Clan Gu immortals, they were also unaware of this. Western Desert's righteous path superforces were adopting a wait-and-see attitude. Many of them anticipated Lin Jianxing to give an explanation, but Lin Clan remained silent and gave no such thing. There was no movement in Western Desert's righteous path. They did not want to create an anti-Lin alliance after the anti-Fang alliance. The consequences of attacking Fang Clan was already before them. If Lin Clan were to imitate Fang Clan as well, with a pseudo-venerable bringing the whole clan to fight a guerrilla war, how Western Desert's righteous path possibly survive? It is impossible for Fang Clan to make a move. Seems like the previous series of Fang Clan's attacks was a deception created by Heavenly Court. It was clear to Fang Yuan after he read through the whole information. After Fang Clan lost all their resource points, they had to rely on Fang Yuan even more. So, Fang Yuan had an even deeper control over them. If Fang Clan were to attack at such a large scale, it was impossible for them to not notify him and ask for his instructions. Fang Yuan found it somewhat funny. Heavenly Court tried to put their hands in Western Desert. It would have been okay if they chose anyone else, but they just happened to choose the strongest target. But shortly after, Fang Yuan fell into deep thought that he thought of an issue. Why did Heavenly Court suddenly target Lin Clan? Was it because they discovered Lin Clan's first Supreme Elder's pseudo-venerable strength and wanted to get rid of him in advance for their plan to conquest the 5 regions? This possibility was too low, not to mention that the greatest obstacle to Heavenly Court ruling the 5 regions were the other venerables. Pseudo-venerables were inconsequential. Also, even if Heavenly Court discovered that Lin Clan's first Supreme Elder had pseudo-venerable battle strength, why would they only send 5 Heavenly Court Gu immortals to kill him? This was clearly not reasonable. What is Heavenly Court's true motive? Why did they suddenly target Lin Clan? Fang Yuan knew from Feng Clan that Lin Clan had never colluded with Feng Clan. This was just Heavenly Court framing them. Is it because Lin Jianxing is an otherworldly demon? That was not right either. Heavenly Court's stance towards otherworldly demons was not radical extermination. If they could be recruited, Heavenly Court would recruit them. They had tried to recruit Fang Yuan as well. Heavenly Court's recruitment standard was very clear. They just needed to be humans. So what was the reason? As the #1 person in Wisdom Path, even if Star Constellation Immortal Venerable did not make the plan, she must have agreed to attacking Lin Clan. But she rarely miscalculates. So what was it that made her agree to attacking Lin Clan? This question was crucial and was worth pondering over. Even though Wisdom Gu was only at rank 8, it was helpful to Fang Yuan. After he used all kinds of Wisdom Path methods, Fang Yuan had some guesses, but he was not certain. After all, they were only deductions. What was the truth? Fang Yuan naturally had a way to verify his deductions that he immediately sent in order to make a rank 5 Gu master undergo immortal ascension. Currently, there was no such rank 5 Gu immortal seed in Sovereign Immortal Aperture. Moreover, these Gu immortal seeds did not have deep foundation or enough experience. The possibility of them succeeding in immortal ascension was very low. This was why Fang Yuan decided to stop them to let them continue to deepen their foundation. But because this issue was very important, Fang Yuan felt it was worth expending a rank 5 Gu master.I in the end. This rank 5 Gu master failed and died from the imbalance of 3 Qi. But using the short period of time of merging the 3 Qi, Fang Yuan used stealing Heavenly Secret to explore the truth. Although Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was outside of Heavenly Court, being in Embroidered Tower, when she gave order to attack Lin Clan, Bo Qing's soul was taken out from Heavenly Court's secret storage. This was obvious evidence. Adding on that fairy maiden's soul modified Bo Qing's soul in Heavenly Court. Fang Yuan learned of many valuable information. Fairy Ziwei and Yingwu Xie are trapped in Heaven Path Dream Realms. So Star Constellation Immortal Venerable decided to cultivate Bo Qing even though this action carries risks. With these clues, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's goal was obvious. It was to use Bo Qing to scheme against Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. Fang Yuan's eyes shone darkly as he mumbled. He knew why Star Constellation Immortal Venerable wanted to deal with Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's actions already made him the main threat to Heavenly Court. Naturally, this was Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's understanding under the condition of Fang Yuan hiding his situation. Were the truth of Fang Yuan's mini rank 9 Immortal Gu to be revealed, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable would be thrown aside. Not only would Star Constellation Immortal Venerable find trouble with Fang Yuan, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable would also impatiently ally with Star Constellation Immortal Venerable to attack Fang Yuan. Splash, 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 AT this time. Fang Yuan made deductions rapidly. Thoughts gushed in his mind and formed into torrential waves. He knew an opportunity was before him. A huge opportunity. If he missed this chance, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable might succeed in her plan. Such opportunity seldom came twice. Would he be able to grasp this opportunity? If he could not, the outcome would be extremely bad to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan could not decide immediately. Although he knew of Heavenly Court's secret, he did not know how much progress Star Constellation Immortal Venerable had made over this period of time that he was even more in the dark regarding Giant Sun Immortal Venerable and Longevity Heaven. Fang Yuan refined rank 9 Immortal Gu. He had an advantage in this aspect. But the other Venerables might be able to offset his refinement path advantage through other aspects. Battle. Fang Yuan did not like battles, but he did not hate or reject them. As far as he was concerned, battles and killing were only a way to obtain benefits. An outcome of inflicting a little more damage to enemy, while suffering less damage, was already a good result in a battle. There were huge risks in battle. It was not a wise decision to start a fight rashly. Compared to fighting, Fang Yuan liked doing transactions to plunder the economy. But Fang Yuan was aware there will be upcoming battles between the Venerables, and it will be frequent. Let's fight then. After pondering and considering for several days, Fang Yuan finally made this decision, and he immediately took action. On one hand, He sent Gu immortals to Western Desert to contact Lin Jianxing and try to recruit him. On the other hand, he arranged a troupe of capable experts. After making proper arrangements, Fang Yuan flew to the sky and entered spectral heaven. Great love, immortal venerable, suddenly flew into spectral heaven. This significant information was quickly obtained by heavenly court. In longevity heaven, it was rapidly spread throughout the whole 5 regions Gu immortal world. Every action of a venerable captured the attention of all the Gu immortals, let alone when Fang Yuan was making such a big movement. What is heaven refining demon venerable trying to do by entering spectral heaven? Fight with spectral soul demon venerable. Giant sun immortal venerable was puzzled. Star constellation immortal venerable, however, felt her heart jump. Not long ago, she had completed the transaction with Fang Yuan regarding the star array calculation formation. Her calculations went wrong because of Lin Jianxing's strength, and she was just about to deal with this when Fang Yuan made such a strange movement. Star constellation immortal venerable did not even make a deduction when a strong intuition hit her. This was going to be bad. But as the exact situation and how this intuition was going to be realized, star constellation immortal venerable did not know. She needed to continue deducing or let the situation play out. Among the venerables, Fang Yuan is the person in the worst position. Why did he take the initiative to go to spectral heaven? Star constellation immortal venerable was also puzzled. Spectral heaven had already become spectral soul demon venerable's territory. He did not show any movements when other Gu immortals entered or left spectral heaven. But if a venerable like Fang Yuan entered, this was like a tiger occupying a mountain. It would not move when some small animals stepped onto the mountain. But if another tiger entered the mountain, the tiger would become vigilant and even start a fight. Would spectral soul demon venerable attack Fang Yuan? The reply to this issue weighed on the 2 venerables' minds. They activated their investigative killer moves to pay close attention. Spectral soul demon venerable did not show any movement. Both venerables were shaken. Both thought of a possibility at the same time. Did Fang Yuan have a method against spectral soul demon venerable, so he had the confidence to enter spectral heaven? But why did he suddenly enter spectral heaven? Similar question appeared before star constellation immortal venerable and giant sun immortal venerable. Giant sun immortal venerable's first thought was, has Fang Yuan already settled the issues inside sovereign immortal aperture and is trying to annex variant human grotto heavens? Star constellation immortal venerable's heart jolted as the bad feeling grew in her heart. Does Fang Yuan already know of the heaven path dream realms? In the battle in Crazed Demon Cave, he killed Paradise Earth and obtained a large piece of truthful floating ice left after Limitless Demon Venerable's death. Fang Yuan did not conceal his movement and directly went towards the location of Heaven Path Dream Realms after he entered Spectral Heaven. Soon, he was before the Heaven Path Dream Realms. After sensing this, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was shaken. This is a dream realm? It is the dream realm closest to the depiction in The Legends of Renzu. So Fang Yuan's target is them. Star constellation Immortal Venerable frowned. Fang Yuan had heaven path cultivation and was also the #1 person in the world regarding dream path. The heaven path dream realms were too useful to him. I can't let Fang Yuan succeed. Star constellation Immortal Venerable thought of this and immediately contacted Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable learned that these were heaven path dream realms that he immediately agreed to ally with Star Constellation Immortal Venerable to suppress Fang Yuan and stop him from obtaining heaven path dream realms. At the same time, he wondered to himself if this was real or not. This was the first time Giant Sun Immortal Venerable knew of the heaven path dream realm's existence. I already have a rank 9 Gu. Although it is light Gu, is damaged and can't be used for the moment. This is already enough to make Star Constellation Immortal Venerable and Heaven Refining Demon Venerable ally to deal with me. So, is this situation planned by them to plot against me? This was definitely a possibility. Fang Yuan looked at the Heaven Path Dream Realm before him and sent Dream Butterfly Immortal Gu inside. Dream Butterfly Immortal Gu was an investigative Gu. Fang Yuan soon learned the details of the Heaven Path Dream Realm. He became quite excited. The price to create these Heaven Path Dream Realms is huge. The heavenly Tao definitely expended its true meaning. This means, if I obtain these dream realms and absorb the true meaning, the loss of the heavenly Tao will become my gain. Through this, my attainment in some aspects of heaven path can become even higher than the heavenly Tao. Naturally, this could not be considered as heaven path supreme grandmaster, because right now, there were too many things in heaven path that Fang Yuan still could not comprehend. Fang Yuan, have you been well? Just as he was thinking, star constellation Immortal Venerable arrived. As expected, it is easy to do things secretly, but hard to do them openly. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable is probably arriving as well. Fang Yuan thought of this and smiled at star constellation Immortal Venerable. Star constellation, I must have these dream realms. If you don't retreat, I will need you to die. Chapter 2308. Fang Yuan vs. Star Constellation. Chapter 2308. Fang Yuan vs. Star Constellation. You need me to die? It is rare to see you. Fang Yuan acts so enthusiastically. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable smiled at Fang Yuan's threat, but was slightly shaken inwardly in her several fights with Fang Yuan. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable rarely saw Fang Yuan show such a firm attitude. It was clear that Fang Yuan was bent on gaining these heaven path dream realms. Because of this, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable needed to stop. Fang Yuan even mourned. We have not fought for many days. You've probably made a lot of progress. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's long hair started fluttering without wind. Her long dark hair was like the dark night, but countless starlight specks glittered in between the hair like a shrunken Milky Way, so dazzling that it could not be ignored. Ding ding ding. Innumerable starlight specks flowed out of her hair and gathered to form a powerful starlight torrent. This torrent was made from countless star fragments that collided with each other, producing clear and crisp sounds. Fang Yuan frowned. He had not seen this move before, but he immediately pointed with his finger, using the killer move 7 kills rainbow. In an instant, metal path is yellow light, wood path is jade green light, water path is light blue hue, fire path is red light, earth path is brown light, wind path is green radiance, and lightning path is deep blue light, merged together to form a huge drill that charged towards the star fragment current. Rumble. The collision produced a huge explosion first. Shortly after, metallic sounds of countless star fragments colliding with each other resounded in the battlefield. Fang Yuan's 7 kills rainbow passed through star fragments and snaked its way towards Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable smiled as her body drifted back like there was a gust of wind. Fang Yuan's 7 kills rainbow continued to lose strength as it passed through the star fragments. At first, it had an unstoppable penetrative force, but as star fragments continued to attach themselves onto it, its momentum reduced rapidly. In the end, the light pillar continued to thin out, and when it reached Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, it was just like a wisp of smoke. The Star Constellation Immortal Venerable watched with a smile on her face as the 7 kills rainbow dissipated before her. Fang Yuan frowned slightly, his gaze fixed upon the star fragments that were scattered throughout the battlefield. Every one of the star fragments was extremely small. They were not real star fragments, but created from the killer move. Originally, the star fragments flickered with blue light and gathered to form an azure torrent. But now, these star fragments were scattered, and as they absorbed the 7 kills rainbow, their surface became tainted with colors like golden yellow, green, blue, red, brown, and so on. The sky above the battlefield was filled with all kinds of colors, forming a gorgeous scene. Fang Yuan, however, sensed intense danger from this boundless beautiful scenery. He continued to activate killer moves to probe, but each of them showed their might for a short period, before their strength began to fall rapidly, and were then absorbed by the star fragments. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable activated another method, but she occasionally flicked her fingers or waved them in the air. Following her movement, star path down marks shone in the battlefield correspondingly. These star path down marks increased in numbers rapidly while connecting with each other. In just a dozen or so breaths of time, they had constructed the initial form of a battlefield killer move. How could Fang Yuan let Star Constellation Immortal Venerable succeed so easily? Once the battlefield killer move was activated, star constellation Immortal Venerable would immediately have a huge territorial advantage that Fang Yuan immediately acted to obstruct her, but there was minimal effect. The star fragments protected the Dao marks. Even if Fang Yuan destroyed the star path Dao marks, these Dao marks would break down into countless star fragments and fill the gaps. I need to thank you, Fang Yuan. If not for permanence Gu, there would not be these two moves. Star constellation Immortal Venerable said. Fang Yuan had never heard of these two moves. They synchronized with each other and were indeed extraordinary. Fang Yuan saw that he was unable to resolve this directly. He decisively stopped probing and used another killer move. At the next moment, his body released the light qi of 5 colors: Central Restriction White Gold, Saint Light Qi, Northern Restriction Jade Licorice Light Qi, Western Restriction Red Raging Flame Light Qi, and Eastern Restriction Blue Water Light Qi. The light qi connected with each other, but were distinct individually as well. They quickly spread throughout the battlefield, covering star constellation Immortal Venerable's incomplete battlefield killer move as well as the countless star fragments. Star constellation Immortal Venerable nodded slightly, revealing her admiration. Be it the previous 7 kills rainbow or the current 5 restriction profound light qi, they were both modified by Fang Yuan. If it were the original version, star constellation Immortal Venerable would have immediately disrupted them, and Fang Yuan would have suffered backlash. 7 kills rainbow's modification was quite ordinary. In just this short while, star constellation Immortal Venerable had already seen through it. As long as she was given some time, she could deduce a method to break it directly, but this 5 restriction profound light qi killer move was modified properly. Besides the increase in its power, its activation speed had also become very fast. This modification level surpassed 7 kills rainbows, which showed that Fang Yuan had paid a lot attention to this. He must have invested a lot of time and energy. Star constellation Immortal Venerable thought. A star constellation Immortal Venerable began to suffer backlash. She did not have sovereign immortal body which had non-conflicting Dao marks. In this 5 restriction profound light qi, the stronger the killer moves she used, the stronger the backlash she faced. However, star constellation Immortal Venerable was the #1 person in wisdom path since ancient times. 5 restriction profound light qi had been revealed before, so how could she not have a method to deal with it? Over this period, she had thought of at least 3 ways to deal with every method of Fang Yuan's. Immediately, star constellation Immortal Venerable chose to use the simplest one. She opened the door of her immortal aperture slightly, letting out countless star beasts. These star beasts had varying sizes. They were as large as white whales or as small as mosquitoes. Some had huge heads and horns. Some were soft and twisted. They were of all kinds and shapes. But every one of these star beasts was at least an immemorial desolate beast. Among them, the leaders' aura and status were clearly higher. Their gazes even shone with shrewdness and spirituality. The star beasts charged into 5 restriction profound light qi without any obstruction. 5 restriction profound light qi killer move originally came from Tao Zhu. He created it based upon the 5 regional walls. The 5 regional walls could obstruct the living beings of 5 regions, but did not have much effect on the beings of the 2 heavens. Star constellation Immortal Venerable deliberately raised these star path beasts, which were all from the 2 heavens, so they were not suppressed by 5 restriction profound light qi. The star beasts formed groups and charged forward aggressively. Fang Yuan activated killer moves to clear out area after area, but star constellation Immortal Venerable kept on adding more beasts. The star beast scale was still growing slowly. The star beast leaders even possessed their own immortal aperture and had goo worms. Their intelligence was not inferior to a human. Star constellation Immortal Venerable seems to be able to raise legendary immemorial beasts at a large scale. Fang Yuan's mind was shook, but thinking about it, he understood why star constellation Immortal Venerable is the #1 person in wisdom path. Enlightening the star beasts and giving them wisdom is her specialty domain. Actually, it was not just star constellation Immortal Venerable. The countless mutant goo immortals in Crazed Demon Cave originated from mountains, rocks, wind, fire, and so on. They were all evolved into goo immortals by limitless demon venerable. From a certain angle, In this aspect of enlightening legendary immemorial desolate beasts, limitless demon venerables' accomplishments were much more shocking than star constellation immortal venerables. Star constellation immortal venerable must have spent countless star path resources to nurture so many star beasts. The merging of the two heavens gave me countless heaven path immortal materials. It also gave her endless star path resources. It allowed her to construct the star array calculation formation and even raise so many star beasts. Fang Yuan made a guess star constellation immortal venerable's wealth. The truth was, star constellation immortal venerable had spent a very large amount to raise so many star beasts, and not only did she use her gains from the merging of two heavens, she also used star path resources from heavenly court storage. Looking at the approaching star beasts, Fang Yuan activated Sword Tongue Dragon Soul Killer move while maintaining 5 restriction Profound Light Chi. Countless dragon souls flew and sword Chi pervaded the air, but they still could not match the endless star beasts. At most they delayed the offense of some star beast groups. After these star beasts were injured, the surrounding star fragments mended their injuries and healed them rapidly. If they were severely injured, they would die and break down into star fragments. Once the star fragments reached a certain level in an area, they easily formed star path Dao marks. The star constellation immortal venerables' 3 moves were connected to each other. If one was weakened, the other would benefit. They were mutually linked and made Fang Yuan's situation increasingly tough. Looks like this is another one of star constellation immortal venerables' combat systems. Fang Yuan noticed something. His thoughts moved like lightning. This fight with star constellation immortal venerable was different from the battle in Crazed Demon Cave or the contest over rank 9 light. The battle in Crazed Demon Cave was to seize primordial domain and the Crazed Demon formation. It prioritized on strategies and making use of the situation. It focused on the competition of information, people's support, and their respective forces. The contest over rank 9 light was a pursuit battle. It focused on speed, initiative, offense, and defense. At this time, Fang Yuan wanted to seize Heaven Path Dream Realms. The prerequisite to this was to take control of this battlefield and gain territorial advantage. Great minds thought alike. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable had the same view. Be it Fang Yuan's 5 restriction Profound Light Chi or Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's mysterious battlefield, they were both meant for this purpose. From the start of the battle, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable directly used her new combat system, lowering the effectiveness of Fang Yuan's 5 restriction Profound Light Chi and other methods. On the other hand, Fang Yuan was decisive. He saw the situation getting worse and immediately stopped all offensive methods, only defending himself. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable saw this and waved her sleeves, making all the star beasts press forward. Fang Yuan could only dodge while preparing his killer move. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's eyes shone with starlight as she suddenly took out the lantern-like secluded domain of heaven and earth, mental domain. As she lightly swung mental domain towards Fang Yuan's direction, instantly, countless emotions attacked Fang Yuan's mind and body. But Fang Yuan was already prepared. He activated several defensive killer moves, among which was the killer move, Calm and Steady. This move was already used in Crazed Demon Cave. It was also modified now. It suppressed and eliminated Fang Yuan's emotions quickly. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable did not succeed in disturbing him, while Fang Yuan stabilized his footing. As his preparation succeeded, he opened his mouth slightly. Light smoke gushed out of his mouth and ears. The pink smoke gathered above Fang Yuan's head and turned into a mini image of Dang Hun Mountain. At the next moment, the killer move activated as the mini Dang Hun Mountain shook intensely. Ding, ding, ding. Sounds of crystals colliding resounded in the battlefield, and soon, the sound became ear-piercing. The pink sound waves were visible to the naked eyes. Wherever they went, star beasts cried in pain, freezing on the spot before crumbling apart. The battlefield that was filled with star beasts became empty instantly. Even the stronger star beast leaders were unable to resist as they collapsed amidst the pink sound waves. Not only this, even the endless star fragments also disintegrated and disappeared. The surrounding star path Dao marks were broken in succession and drowned in the pink sound waves. The immortal killer move, shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound. One move swept the whole battlefield and changed the situation easily. Star constellation Immortal Venerable was aghast. Her expression changed. Chapter 2309. The Power of Heavenly Web. Chapter 2309. The Power of Heavenly Web. Shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound was a compound killer move. It used Rank 8 Rule Path Departure Gu, Rank 8 Wisdom Path Great Shock Gu, Rank 8 Time Path Year Gu, Rank 7 Dream Armor Gu, Rank 8 Water Path Huge Wave Gu, Rank 8 Sound Path Ringing Sound Gu, and its core was the secluded domain of heaven and earth, Dang Hun Mountain. It was because the core was Dang Hun Mountain, a secluded domain of heaven and earth, that this move could be comparable to a rank 9 killer move under the Tao mark amplification of Fang Yuan's various paths. Its might was astonishing that, with just this move, Fang Yuan immediately broke Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's 3 continuous moves and alleviated his worsening situation. Regaining his footing, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's expression changed as thoughts surged and moved in her mind. Trying to analyze this move with all her strength, this move seems like Fang Yuan's trump card. It is the source of his confidence to fight me. Roughly analyzing it, this move contains Rule Path, Wisdom Path, Time Path, Dream Path, Water Path, Soul Path, and Sound Path that it really is difficult to block it completely. Wisdom Path was fine, but Dream Path was troublesome. Despite the Dream Path Immortal Gu Dream Armor being only rank 7, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable did not have an effective way to block it. Fang Yuan had the advantage in Dream Path. He was the #1 in the current world. The greatest source of this move's strength is Dang Hun Mountain. How much time and energy did Fang Yuan spend to deduce this move? Star Constellation Immortal Venerable calculated inwardly, while feeling somewhat helpless. Her painstakingly created new combat system was broken by one move from Fang Yuan. And no matter how ingenious the 3 connected moves was, Fang Yuan's shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound was extremely domineering, directly clearing the battlefield the thing that Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was concerned about. The time and energy she spent on these 3 moves compared to Fang Yuan's expenditure in deducing shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound. It was fine if her time and energy spent was less. If it was more, her losses would be more than gains. That the result of a confrontation between Venerables also signified the difference in Venerable's cultivation and management methods. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable calculated inwardly and felt the possibility of Fang Yuan expending lesser than her was rather low. But the truth was not so. That the main source of this killer move, shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound, came from the nature of heaven and earth. In the remote antiquity era, there was a kind of immemorial desolate beast called Shocking Year Beast. Wherever it went, Shocked Year Gu would fly out. It was already extinct now. Dream Wave was a phenomenon. In Fang Yuan's 500 years of his previous life, Dream Wave was formed when dream realms appeared at a large scale. There was no need to say much about Dang Hun Mountain. Soul Sound Withered Tree was an already extinct, rare immemorial desolate plant that it used wood path resources as nutrients and emitted soul sound that influenced the souls of the surrounding living beings. That these phenomena and natural abilities existed throughout heaven and earth naturally. That after Fang Yuan gained the information through stealing heavenly secret, they became an important foundational reference material. The creation of compound killer moves was actually easier than an individual path as killer moves, especially when Fang Yuan had rank 8 Wisdom Gu. It gave him accurate inspirations, so he did not have to waste time on dead ends. This shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound was essentially only a quasi-rank 9 killer move because it did not contain a rank 9 Immortal Gu. Thus, rank 8 Wisdom Gu was helpful in deducing this move. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, can you deal with this move? Fang Yuan smiled as he calmly approached Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable could only retreat constantly, maintaining distance from Fang Yuan. That it was difficult to construct a combat system. That the 3 connected moves that Star Constellation Immortal Venerable painstakingly created were exquisite and already formed an initial incomplete combat system. But but after Fang Yuan's move unreasonably broke it. The three connected moves became a joke naturally. This did not mean that star constellation Immortal Venerable's effort ended up in vain. Maybe in the future, when she obtains a rank 9 star path Immortal Gu, this combat system's power would rise explosively and be able to withstand Fang Yuan's compound killer move. The foundation of a combat system were still the Immortal Gu that formed it. In a contest of venerables, they first competed with rank 9 Immortal Gu. If there was no rank 9 Immortal Gu, then they would contest with secluded domains of heaven and earth. In this aspect, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable possessed the incomplete Blood Sea, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable possessed Book Mountain, Mental Domain, and the Door of Life and Death. Fang Yuan possessed Dang Hun Mountain, Luo Pa Valley, City Well, Reverse Flow River, Hu Land, Refinement Sea, Human Sea, and the incomplete Qian Kuan Crystal Walled. When the foundation was solid, and it was hard to determine a winner through fighting, the combat system became the biggest factor to decide victory or defeat. Fang Yuan really has extraordinary aptitude and shocking talent. This move is so powerful and mysterious, it is really hard to block. But I also have a move, please appraise it. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable shook the mental domain in her hand. Fang Yuan immediately looked vigilant and activated Reverse Flow Protection Seal. That Reverse Flow River was already restored. Reverse Flow Protection Seal had even been modified. Originally, after the killer move was activated, a large white robe was formed with ripples moved along the surface. This was the image of Reverse Flow River flowing slowly. The surface of the white robe had faint mist surrounding it. There was also a strip of light that was deep azure. It was curvy and wavy, resembling a long sash. It coiled around Fang Yuan's arms, the back of his neck, and around his waist again. Now, besides these, Fang Yuan's peerlessly beautiful face was partly veiled by a translucent gauze, highlighting the matchless charm in the depths of his unconcealed eyes. The lantern-like mental domain shook slightly. In an instant, the surrounding battlefield dimmed. A mental domain was like the only source of light, but it was letting out a mysterious suction force. This move's range was extremely large. Fang Yuan was directly struck by it. His accumulated emotions were extracted and absorbed by mental domain. Fang Yuan immediately used calm and steady killer move, but could not block this process. He used other methods as well, but as they showed no effects, his expression started to change. Because at first, only emotions were extracted, but gradually, Fang Yuan's wisdom path Dao marks were also being extracted. Wisdom path cultivation focused on three elements: thoughts, wills, and emotions. Furthermore, emotions were related to wisdom path Dao marks. A star constellation Immortal Venerable's move was extremely powerful. Besides extracting emotions, it could even extract wisdom path Dao marks, permanently reducing the target's wisdom path foundation. Once my emotions are all extracted, my heart will be emptied, and it will be extremely easy for star constellation Immortal Venerable to add in emotions then. Fang Yuan felt that the situation was going south. During the whole process, his reverse flow protection seal had no reaction. Clearly, this extraction was extremely subtle and was not considered an attack, so it did not trigger reverse flow protection seal's counterattack. In fact, star constellation Immortal Venerable probably created this move to target reverse flow protection seal. She succeeded. Fang Yuan's effort in modifying reverse flow protection seal was made pointless in just a few breaths of time. Fang Yuan already lost 100 wisdom path Dao marks. He activated defensive methods crazily, but even Dream Armor Gu showed no effect. At the core of star constellation Immortal Venerable's move was mental domain. It could be considered a quasi-rank 9 killer move, adding on the amplification from her wisdom path Dao marks. It had overwhelming might. Methods like that of Dream Armor Gu were at a lower level and did not have enough strength to block this. The reverse flow protection seal was of a high level and had enough strength, but it could not be triggered. Fang Yuan had another option, which was to continue activating Shocking Departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound, using offense against offense. But he was in a dilemma. It was not his intention to fight such an intense attrition battle with star constellation Immortal Venerable. Both sides would suffer losses. giving Giant Sun Immortal Venerable the most gains. Moreover, Fang Yuan did not want to fight Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. His first priority were the Heaven Path Dream Realms. Thoughts collided in Fang Yuan's mind, and after a few sparks between the thoughts, he made a decision. He secretly used a Heaven Path killer move. Heavenly Web Protection Veiled. This move originally formed a giant milky, white web outside of the Gu Immortal to block attacks. But now, it quietly turned into a milky white light stream that entered the thin fishing net formed from obscured heavenly secret killer move. Like this, the thin and tightly connected fishing net possessed the power of two killer moves, Heavenly Web Protection Veil and Obscured Heavenly Secret. Heavenly Web Gu was a rank 9 immortal Gu. Heavenly Web Protection Veil's defensive power was higher than the strength of Mental Domain's killer move. Heavenly Web Protection Veil had gaps, but nothing was allowed to pass through. Or, as the saying went, the net of heaven has large meshes, but it lets nothing through. A Chinese saying similar to the mills of God grind slowly but surely. In an instant, it stopped Fang Yuan's emotions from being extracted, causing Star Constellation Immortal Venerable to exclaim in surprise. The even more amazing thing was that the rank 9 Immortal Gu aura was not exposed. Because the two moves were interconnected, the aura was concealed by Obscured Heavenly Secret Killer Move. A Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was truly Star Constellation Immortal Venerable. After just a few exchanges, she forced Fang Yuan to use his rank 9 Heavenly Web Gu. Like this, Obscured Heavenly Secret Killer Move faced a huge burden. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's mood was even heavier. She could not block Fang Yuan's shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound, but Fang Yuan could resist her Mental Domain's killer move. That meant she could not even keep up the attrition battle by using offense against offense. Does Fang Yuan have a method that is not weaker than mine in terms of wisdom path deduction? Star Constellation Immortal Venerable could not help but feel doubtful. Fang Yuan thus gained the upper hand and finally had the leisure time to deal with the Heaven Path Dream Realms. He did not attack Star Constellation Immortal Venerable and only defended against her while targeting those Heaven Path Dream Realms from afar. His first method was naturally pure dream reality seeker transformation. Ordinary dream realms would be transformed into pure dream reality seeker bodies by this move, but it had no effect on the Heaven Path Dream Realms. Not only this, the Heaven Path Dream Realms were instead angered and formed a tidal wave that rushed towards Fang Yuan. These Heaven Path Dream Realms are filled with heaven's will, while pure dream reality seeker transformation condenses a dream realm into a human body with human will as the core. This means I need to get rid of all the heaven's will in the dream realms first. After learning of this, Fang Yuan activated Heaven's Will Dissipation Killer Move. He had used this move many times before to deal with dream realms, and its effect was extraordinary. But this time, although it was still effective, its side effect was much larger. Fang Yuan felt some heartache as he watched the targeted Heaven Path Dream Realm shrinking rapidly. Seems like Heaven's Will Dissipation is usable against ordinary dream realms, but is an extremely crude measure against Heaven Path Dream Realms that it not only removes Heaven's will, it even eradicates the true meaning contained in the dream realm. Fang Yuan was not without gains. He realized that Heaven's will and Heaven Path true meaning were entangled in the Heaven Path Dream Realms, so they were hard to separate. His wisdom path methods were rough. It was difficult for him to precisely separate the two and target just Heaven's will. But Fang Yuan still had a way to deal with this at the next moment. He brought out his Dream Path clone Meng Qiuzhen, letting him be devoured by a Heaven Path Dream Realm, a Star Constellation Immortal Venerable side. Feeling somewhat anxious that Fang Yuan's strength was exposed, which made her quite surprised. He was actually starting to take these Heaven Path Dream Realms right under her eyes. Giant Sun, are you going to watch as Heaven? Refining Demon Venerable takes these Heaven Path Dream Realms and increases his strength. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable contacted Giant Sun. Of course not. At the next moment, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable showed himself. Chapter 23:10. Two Venerables Fight Against Fang Yuan. Chapter 23:10. Two Venerables fight against Fang Yuan. Ever since Fang Yuan suddenly flew into spectral heaven, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had been paying close attention to this place. And when Fang Yuan and star constellation Immortal Venerable fought, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was happy at first that after all, the two venerables expending each other's resources was most beneficial to him. But shortly after, he was faintly worried about Fang Yuan not being able to withstand star constellation Immortal Venerable's attacks and getting defeated too early. If Fang Yuan can't continue, I will help him a bit. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had been secretly preparing to help Fang Yuan, that he naturally did not have good intentions at first. Fang Yuan being in a weaker position was not beneficial to Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. As far as he was concerned, Heavenly Court was still the biggest enemy. Second, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable still wanted Fang Yuan and Star Constellation Immortal Venerable to continue wearing each other down. So he needed to help Fang Yuan to maintain the battle of attrition between the two venerables to gain the most benefits. I have unified essence, EZ after all. My immortal essence can be replenished greatly. Consuming some immortal essence in battle is more detrimental for them. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had this thought back then that he was not wrong. It was also very reasonable. It was just that he did not know the truth. He only possessed the information that he could obtain. But soon, he was shocked to see that in the battle between Star Constellation Immortal Venerable and Fang Yuan, it was Fang Yuan who had the upper hand. He had not expected this, that after all, in his impression, Fang Yuan was behind on refining Tao marks. Although he had potential, his immortal essence reserve was the worst. That how could he gain the upper hand? He even made Star Constellation Immortal Venerable take the initiative to ask for help from Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had witnessed the whole fight. After the surprise, he felt that it made sense that shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun sound left an extremely deep impression on him. Fang Yuan used Dang Hun Mountain as the core to create such a powerful killer move that destroyed Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's incomplete combat system. It made sense for Fang Yuan to be victorious. When shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun sound showed its might, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was actually not too anxious. Instead, he became a little relieved and no longer felt such an urge to probe Fang Yuan's foundation. That the reason Fang Yuan lacked immortal essence and was the slowest one at refining natural Tao marks. What did he spend the rest of his time on? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable understood now, so he used his time to deduce killer moves. This was a rather correct choice in Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's opinion. He was even more at ease because the killer move used a secluded domain of heaven and earth as the core. Looks like Fang Yuan does not have a rank 9 immortal goo. So he used a secluded domain of heaven and earth to create a quasi-rank 9 killer move. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable could not help feeling envious. Fang Yuan had the most number of secluded domains of heaven and earth. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable also had several, but he, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, only had one, and it was incomplete. He really wanted to have a complete secluded domain of heaven and earth. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was observing the battle quietly when he saw Fang Yuan gaining the upper hand with shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun sound killer move. His mind turned calm. However, when he saw Fang Yuan withstanding Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's mental domain's killer move, he could no longer sit still. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable already expected Star Constellation Immortal Venerable to use a Wisdom Path killer move with mental domain as the core, but he never expected Fang Yuan to have a defensive method that could block this mental domain's killer move. Fang Yuan's reverse flow protection seal already made Giant Sun Immortal Venerable feel a headache. He had racked his brains to secretly deduce a luck path method to counter it. But he did not think Fang Yuan was still hiding another defensive method that was even stronger than reverse flow protection seal. Fang Yuan's performance went beyond Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's expectations. Now, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was worried. A star constellation Immortal Venerable could not break Fang Yuan's defensive method. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was the same. I did not think that you, Fang Yuan, has such deep attainment in wisdom path as well that in just a short period of time, you actually created, deduced, and modified so many killer moves. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable entered the battlefield, and praised Fang Yuan sincerely. This was actually nothing. Fang Yuan possessed stealing heavenly secret and wisdom goo. And with sovereign immortal body's advantage, it was easy to create compound killer moves. Just one of these advantages alone could make the other venerables envious that now that these advantages were stacked together, even Fang Yuan felt it was terrifying. Shocking departure of Year Dream Wave and Dang Hun Sound and Heavenly Web Protection Veil were only a part of Fang Yuan's recent gains, but he chose to use them because he felt they suited the situation. Fang Yuan had at least 10 killer moves of similar level that the power of stealing heavenly secret could be seen from. This, of course, rank 8 wisdom goo also provided a lot of help. It was because of these two that Fang Yuan caught up from behind in terms of killer moves. He even had a wide range of options to choose from. Naturally, nothing could be perceived from Fang Yuan's expression. Facing Giant Sun, Immortal Venerable, he frowned and snorted coldly. I must obtain these. Heaven Path Dream Realms. Giant Sun, you also want to block me? Are you still not clear of who is stronger between Heavenly Court and me? Giant Sun Immortal Venerables looked at Fang Yuan's incisive gaze. His expression eased and turned somewhat complex that in his view, compared to Heavenly Court and Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, Fang Yuan was still weaker. The reason? Fang Yuan did not have enough immortal essence. He had been venerable for the shortest time and did not even have his own base thought. How many natural refinement path down marks did he refine in this period of time? It was very obvious. Fang Yuan looked powerful, even suppressing Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, but in fact, he was relying on the novelty of new killer moves and their powerful strength. How much immortal essence could he have? How could he fight a battle of attrition? From what? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable thought. Fang Yuan's situation did not look good. But even though Fang Yuan was weaker, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable still needed to stop Fang Yuan and stand with Star Constellation Immortal Venerable for the time being. The reason, because Fang Yuan wanted Heaven Path Dream Realms, this could not be allowed. If Fang Yuan absorbed all these Heaven Path Dream Realms, he would definitely rise in power and change the power structure of the Venerables. This was something that Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not want to see. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable felt Heavenly Court and Star Constellation Immortal Venerable were his greatest threats, but he also wanted to suppress the rise of Fang Yuan, who was the weakest Venerable but had the most potential. Thus, he took part in the battle. On the surface, he was helping Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, but secretly, he was striving for Star Constellation and Fang Yuan to expend their immortal essence, so that he could maintain and enlarge his advantage. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's choice was no doubt extremely sensible from his point of view. With his help, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable immediately changed the battle situation and began to suppress Fang Yuan through environment in spectral heaven was not helpful to the three Venerables. They relied on their own foundation and strength. Under this situation, Fang Yuan's worsening situation was immediately cleared. After all, he was fighting two opponents on his own. Naturally, this was under the condition where Fang Yuan preserved most of his methods and did not use his full battle strength. The fight of the three Venerables shook heaven and earth. Every Gu Immortal in 5 regions raised their heads and watched the battle nervously. Oh no, Lord Alliance Leader's situation is not good. 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 This demon Fang Yuan will finally face retribution. I did not expect my ancestor Giant Sun to join hands with Heavenly Court. Heavenly Court is quite sensible to not look for trouble with my ancestor Giant Sun. Being able to make Giant Sun Immortal Venerable help her so easily proves Lady Star Constellation Immortal Venerable is indeed the #1 person in Wisdom Path. Rank 8 Gu Immortals understood the situation more clearly. They saw Fang Yuan being suppressed and his situation getting worse. The Eastern Sea Immortals looked extremely solemn, while Central Continent and Northern Plains Gu Immortals were rejoicing with raised morale. Thunder rumbled, and countless rays of light exploded from the collision of killer moves. Fang Yuan's situation did not look good, but he was calm inwardly. Although the two Venerables allied, due to their conflicting paths, they could only attack Fang Yuan in turns. Moreover, the two Venerables were wary of each other. One would not allow the other to set a battlefield without the threat of a battlefield killer move. Fang Yuan still had a grasp over the choice of fighting or retreating. More importantly, Meng Xiaojun was already in a heaven path dream realm and was making good progress. Because of the sharing of the clones and main body's attainment levels, Fang Yuan could clearly feel his heaven path attainment level rising slowly. Fang Yuan just needed to maintain this situation, and it would do. What was the use of superficial victory or defeat? Man strives for recognition while Buddha requires incense. This was a reasonable proverb. But Fang Yuan was far beyond the age of fighting for recognition, and he was more willing to strive for benefits. If the choice of honor and benefit went against each other, Fang Yuan would unhesitatingly choose the latter. It was this situation right now that he could be forceful and suppress the two venerables. But what was the use when he would not be able to kill them? Instead, it would make the two venerables wary and deepen their alliance. That was this not asking for trouble. As for the support and morale of the 5 regions Gu immortals, Fang Yuan did not care. But what was the use of that? Even if Fang Yuan was defeated miserably today, the 5 regions Gu immortals still could not defeat him. Yet they still had to fear and revere Fang Yuan. As long as Fang Yuan was not dead, could Fang clan, the 2 heavens grotto heavens variant humans, or even the Eastern Sea superforces side with someone else? They still had to follow Fang Yuan. It was just that they would be more worried about their future. But what did the worries of these minor characters have to do with Fang Yuan? Fang Yuan did not need to bother with such things. There were no two ways about it. These minor characters were only resources and tools in Fang Yuan's eyes. That the Gu cultivation world was ruled by the strong. The actual trend of the world still depended on the fight between venerables. Even if Fang Yuan was defeated, as long as Meng Xiaojun made huge gains, he would be the biggest winner. The loss could be considered a victory, even if Star Constellation Immortal Venerable and Giant Sun Immortal Venerable beat Fang Yuan badly. As long as Fang Yuan lived and absorbed all the Heaven Path Dream Realms, their victory would be the same as defeat. Fang Yuan knew this. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was aware of it as well. The alliance of the 2 venerables could not make Fang Yuan retreat. He was still absorbing the true meaning in the Heaven Path Dream Realms. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was truly anxious. She transmitted her voice to Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Giant Sun, if this continues, Heaven Refining Demon Venerable will succeed. What are you still holding back for? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable snorted coldly. Star Constellation, are you telling me that you are not holding back? Star Constellation Immortal Venerable had a solemn expression. I am going to prepare a killer move to search for Fang Yuan's Dream Path clone and try to eradicate it. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable took a deep look at her before nodding. Then I will target Fang Yuan's reverse flow protection seal and pressure him in order to create a chance for you.